Have you ever done live action roleplaying, also known as LARPing? If so, I'm so sorry to inform you, but you might just be a changeling. In Changeling the Dreaming, you play as the reincarnations of mythical Fae creatures who lived before the world changed its consensus. These Fae all realized that to survive, they had to reincarnate themselves, and that meant merging their Fae soul with a human's. Like a werewolf, a changeling will live their life as a normal human until the day of their chrysalis, when they become aware of their true Fae nature. The changeling way was performed by all of the Fae because they cannot exist in a banal world, for they are not of order and reason. No, the Fae are from a dreaming world, of passions, of imaginations, and of wonder. The Fae chose the changeling way because the banality of the world was slowly but surely killing them. The new consensus came for the dragons first, the church, muskets, technocratic wizardry, and new proclamations of the way the world should, and paradoxically, always worked. Then it came for the monsters and sorcerer kings, and then it came for the weak and the meek who did not belong in the new world, for they were not humans or monsters whose roots were firmly grounded into the creation of reality. But who cares about all of that? You're a Fae! Your storyteller and players are going to embark on a fantasy adventure set in their own imagination, and every bit of it is real, and it's all really happening, because magic. This is also despite your characters only being in the shopping centre, where normal people only see a bunch of weirdos being generally obnoxious. You and all other changelings suffer from Tinkerbell syndrome, and the only way to counteract this is with glamour. No, not the magazine. Glamour is a creative and imaginative inspiration derived from hopes, dreams, and thought-provoking entertainment and ideas. Glamour, therefore, comes in many forms, including from within the changelings themselves. Everyone can create glamour, including demons, wraiths, and every other monster under the moon. Yes, even humans. But the only ones who can use it are the Fae, and their Kinnian offspring, which is a mortal of Fae blood, but who is not a changeling themselves. Changeling the Dreaming is a massive deviation from the gothic punk and grimdark tone set by the other World of Darkness playbooks. Whilst its lore does cover depressing subject matter, it is meant to be played mostly whimsically and more like a traditional TTRPG you find in something like D&D, with the twist being that it's set in the modern world. Yes, there are vampires preying on humans in dark alleys, werewolves committing furry actions, and demons exist, but a changeling doesn't care about any of that. They just want to have a good time, and want to share those good times with others. Although this mostly comes in forms of pranks and general dickishness, the expense of others is usually the price for a changeling's fun. Changeling the Dreaming is a very imaginative playbook where you are encouraged to go wild with your ideas and to go beyond expectations. Intrigue plays an important role because of how Fae politics play out, because yes, the Fae do have politics, and this has had a large impact on the mortal world's history. At least until recent years, thanks to the Technocracy and their progenitors, the Order of Reason. But their mark can still be found in ancient fables and fairy tales. Changeling the Dreaming is the only playbook where LARPing is encouraged, because LARPing is a part of what your characters do all the time. But I would still judge you if you did LARPing in a public space. You should play Changeling the Dreaming if you want an oasis from the greater World of Darkness, where you can do battle with the things in the night, not as a hunter surviving until the dawn, but as noble knights on wings of chrome charging valiantly at the agents of the New World Order who had cancelled your favourite TV show right when it finally found its footing. There are two main reasons. The first is that Changeling the Dreaming isn't meant to be your typical World of Darkness playbook. It's meant to be the brevity from all the depression and sadness and grim darkness and gothic punkness. While its lore does have themes of tragedy, playing Changeling the Dreaming first can set very wrong impressions for what the World of Darkness is. The other reason is that LARPing is cringeworthy when done outside of your own property, aka in public spaces. I don't want to catch any of you LARPing outside of your privately owned property, understood? But in all seriousness, the second reason is that some of the mechanics of the magical spells, or as they're called in the playbook, cantrips, are weird and obtuse. While cantrips make sense when reading them, actually playing cantrips can be quite difficult for the storyteller and players. It's akin to how mages use their spheres of magic. And given how this series is going in order of easiest to play to hardest to play, that should tell you just how not beginner friendly their magic is. The reason why cantrips can be hard to wrap your head around is that they heavily restrict you in what magic you can perform, while paradoxically not providing much handholding for getting you to do what you want to do. An example of this would be the Kronos art of effect and cause. The last downside isn't as big as a deal as the first two, but it's still a downside. Some of the lore in the 20th edition does contradict previously established lore, to the point the lore itself breaks. An example of this is Adantane, where in the original lore, there were people who sought banality for safety and comfort, as well as power. But in the 20th edition, they are just completely evil, and considered a race into and of themselves, which contradicts one of the themes of Changeling the Dreaming, that being that banality is as easy and as comforting as it is corruptive and dangerous. It is only through excitement, the testing of oneself and your limits, as well as the limits of others, that we can truly live a wonderful and exciting life. The Fey world is a reflection of our, or rather, the material world. Where we have a war, so too do the Fey. Their reasons for war, however, will be very Feyish, so utter malarkey. But to the Fey's disposition, it will sound completely justified. The current theory from non-Fey scholars believes that the Fey are a reflection of our, being humans and perhaps monsters, collective imagination. Which is why banality kills them. If you stop thinking critically, or stop imagining creative things, allowing yourself to only consume something for the sake of consuming it, then the Fey will die off because they have no thoughts, feelings, or imagination to exist from, as the lines between reality and fiction become blurred. And yet at the same time, you stop believing that the wondrous worlds of fantasy could ever exist. To the Fey, escapism is one of the most powerful thoughts people can indulge in and create glamour from. And for everyone, escapism is one of the brightest lights in the World of Darkness. A lot of the lore written for Changeling the Dreaming is quite fascinating to look at. It's the Fey trying to rationalize the real world and the World of Darkness to be far more fantastical than their inhabitants would often make it out to be. They haven't evolved socially and culturally from the medieval ages and feudalism, meaning their politics are quite anachronistic. This boils over their perspectives on modern day social topics and technologies as well, most preferring traditional means, rather than the hottest new thing that reinforces banality. Speaking of traditions, at one point in time, the Fey did coexist with humans in the same world. Then everything changed when the world became more defined thanks to the effects of the Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment. The events that unfolded within these time periods caused an influx of banality to wreak havoc on the Fey and their existence. The nobility of the Fey escaped into the Dreaming, a realm of pure imagination, where they could survive from the effects of banality that were hounding the real world. As a reflection of the human nobility, the Fey nobility didn't care to help their commoners, leaving them behind. stranded in a world that was now killing them for their mere existence. To counter this, all Fae decided to perform the Changeling Way, a powerful magic that would reincarnate them into the bodies of mortals, mostly children, and merge their souls into one with their host. This is why all Fae are changelings in the modern Knights, even the nobles, which I'll get back to in a moment. The commoners ruled the noble Fae's kingdoms in their absence, maintaining and building new kingdoms as the centuries went by, with their history reflecting many important events from human history. That was until the moon landing. And yes, the moon landing was indeed staged. This event that was experienced worldwide opened up all the bridges to and from the dreaming back to reality, thanks to the monumental amount of glamour that was created across the globe. With these bridges reopened, the nobles decided to finally return to reality. But once they were across and back in the mortal world, the bridges snapped shut once again. The abundance of glamour was as bright as it was fleeting. The return of the nobles was catastrophic for Fae society. The social orders that had been reinforced for generations were shaking at their foundations. Wars broke out between the commoners and the nobles, and that quickly widened to wars between the nobles and other nobles, as well as commoners fighting other commoners. It was a war for the thrones of Faedom, and every Fae wanted their rightful place. The result of this war was a noble victory, much to the detriment of the commoners who had earned and maintained Fae society in the nobles' absence. Fae are the types to think before they leap, and rarely care about the consequences of their actions. So for many of the noble Fae to realise that the Fae wars were a mistake and beyond Faeric, just tells you how bad the consequences of this war must have been. Said consequences of all that fighting and Fae death led to only one true winner: banality. And now we're in the final nights. Banality is at an all-time high. The social order of the Fae is in shambles, and to make matters worse, there's an even fouler force than banality out there: the Fomorians. They could be thought of as the forces of primordial fears and evilness that use banality to their own ends. They're not linked to it, as the Fae are directly connected to banality, but the Fomorians often use banality for their power. The Fomorians are possibly connected to the worm, but don't take that as the truth. So remember, next time you watch that trashy TV show and let it rot your brain, next time you play that mass-produced video game, or whatever you force propaganda into creative endeavours, you're creating a whole lot of banality into the world and killing the Fae. Tragedy and the death of innocence are major themes in Changeling the Dreaming. The Will of Darkness has its claws embedded in the Changelings as much as any other monster. Changeling the Dreaming's latest release is its 20th edition playbook, and that is currently the best way to play it. Due to its nature as a brevity from the other playbooks, Changeling the Dreaming is a very niche game with very niche lore, with not many players. Those players who do play it often play it whimsically and jovially, meaning that while there are potentially serious stories to tell, it's very rare for anyone to want to do that. That's not to say you and your friends can't, but Changeling the Dreaming does take you out of WoD's usual tone, as that was what it was designed to do. Changeling the Dreaming almost feels like the antithesis to the original intent of Will of Darkness in that way, with a Fae's perspective of the world being besmirched by the Will of Darkness clawing its way in and disrupting the fantastical world, rather than the brief moments of respite of the regular world offering a cold sanctuary to the monsters and regular humans trapped within the Will of Darkness's infernal grasp. That's all to say, I cannot recommend this playbook to start with, because it's not meant to be the norm for WoD. You should only play it once you've played a couple Chronicles using other playbooks first and want a short break from the constant grimness of the final nights.